Thanks to my sensen, I choose to remember every defining moment of my life. Good ones and the bad. Thanks to my sensen, my husband lives on. Here and here.
Remember Me from 2013 was not a masterpiece, but it's still worth remembering. Pun completely intended. I always say Remember Me from 2013 because there is a movie that came out called Remember Me, which was starring Robert Pattinson. And this movie was made during the same time that he was also making the Twilight Saga, so you can imagine it's pretty much the same crap minus the vampires. At least I think it's minus the vampires. I never saw the 2010s Remember Me. Anyways, let's move on to the first thing that I want to talk about in Remember Me 2013. The graphics in this game are not bad, especially for 2013's standard. I don't really know what this game would have looked like on PlayStation 3 because I'm actually playing this on Steam, and I have it set to the highest that the game will allow. And I don't really know much of a difference. I kind of wish I had a PlayStation 3 so that I could actually compare the Steam version and the PlayStation 3 version. But overall, depending on where you are in the game, the graphics in themselves are just gorgeous for the time. I personally favor the beginning of the game around episode 2 because it's very colorful and bright when you see the futuristic utopia in front of you. But as you play further down to the end of the game, it seems like it gets darker and darker, and I think that's because a lot of people are going crazy due to the story of the game, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But overall, I was pretty impressed at how the game looked. It wasn't your typical gray shade on every PS3 game that they had at the time, like GTA 4. The gameplay is one of those things that you either love it or you hate it, and I'll be honest with you, I started off kind of hating it, but then I learned to love it as the game went on, when I finally figured out how the combos and everything else worked. This game has a plethora of varieties of gameplay. There is climbing, a few puzzles, and lots of hand-to-hand combat. There are even parts where you have to remix memories, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute too. But the climbing is extremely similar, if not exactly the same, as Uncharted. If you look at the two games side by side, Uncharted's climbing mechanic and Remember Me's climbing mechanic are almost to the T exactly the same. I think the biggest difference is that Remember Me will actually tell you what ledge to jump on, and Uncharted is more of a guessing game. You know, just watch for Nathan to reach and tap X. Of course, in Remember Me, she actually reaches as well, but there's a little arrow that will actually show you where to go to, so it just makes it a little bit easier. The puzzles in this game are not very hard. There are only about like 4 I think in the whole game, and there are guides online if you're having trouble finding them out, which I totally did not have to do that on a few puzzles, or all of them. Anyways, the hand-to-hand combat isn't anything special either, but there is one thing that makes the fighting in this game a lot different than any other games that I've ever played. This game allows you to customize your perks for your combos. There are 4 different types of perks. One is a damage perk, which allows you to cause more damage to an enemy. There's a health perk, which allows you to gain health with the combo. And there is a cooldown perk as well. This cooldown perk will decrease your cooldown time for your special attack. Just to go over this real quick, by episode 6 you should have 5 special abilities that you can use to take out certain enemies a lot quicker. Every time you use one of these abilities, a cooldown activates. But with this cooldown combo perk, you will significantly decrease your cooldown on these special abilities. And finally, the last combo perk is a perk that will allow you to chain combos together, and I'm not great at combos, so I never actually use this one. The last interesting mechanic that I've never seen anywhere else before is the ability to remix memories. I mean, I guess I can't really call this a mechanic, only because you do this in certain points of the game to progress the story. One thing that I briefly went over was that you have special abilities that you can do, and there are a total of 5 of them which you unlock as the game progresses. These abilities are called Sensen, and the first Sensen that you unlock is the Sensen Fury, which is a free-flowing attack that enables you to attack your enemies without pause, and each attack is stronger than the last. Another one is the Sensen DOS, which is an area of effect attack that releases a shockwave that stuns and disorients all surrounding enemies. By this, abilities that require active thought for usage are unable to be used. You're actually supposed to use this around the enemies that can go invisible at will and can kind of like flash in and out to hit you. This ability will actually disable that feature, so you'll be able to take them all out real quick. Next, let's talk about the Sensen Rust in Pieces, which forces technology against your enemies. It can make robots attack enemies and each other. It also affects other non-hostile technology, making them hinder enemies in whatever way possible. It is accompanied by a self-destruction of the technology, which will damage its nearby enemies. There's also the Sensen Camo, which allows you to turn invisible at will, and this ability is good for when you have a certain enemy type. You can actually creep up behind them and automatically overload their memory for an insta-kill. Then there's also the Logic Bomb, which is a powerful technological ability that places an explosive Sensen virus to destroy technological-based shields and equipment in the area, also damaging its nearby enemies. It has a large area of effect. In normal situations with no technology involved, it simply acts as an explosive. And finally, we have the Memory Overload, where it inserts your Hunter Gloves hand directly into the enemy's head, sending it into his or her mind, and overloading it with huge amounts of random unrecognized memories, overloading the brain and making the enemies pass out. Well, this one's actually not considered to be a Sensen ability, but this one's actually triggered for certain enemy types, and then of course the one where you use the Sensen Camo for the enemy types where you creep up behind them and get them real quick. But this one's actually triggered usually by just the regular enemies. If you hit them down a bunch of times, and then sometimes it'll prompt you to hit the circle, or B in my case, to overload their memory. This one's more of a prompt rather than an actual Sensen trigger. Also, there are quite a few different enemy types that vary up the gameplay in Remember Me. You have the standard enemy, you just beat them up with no special way around it, like the Prowler or your standard Saber Force guys. Sometimes the Saber Force guys might have a shield, but that's an easy fix. While aiming, you tap your right trigger, or whatever the top button is for shooting in this game, and you use your weak attack, and then you tap R2, or whatever your strong attack would be considered to be. That strong attack is what will destroy the shield. I'm trying to be as universal as possible here, because if you play this on Steam, I don't know if you prefer mouse and keyboard, or if you use a controller, whatever it may be. Then of course you have your leapers, which as the name says, leaps onto walls, but they're real easy to take down. Then you have your enemies like the Elite Enforcer. These guys can be tough because every time you hit them, whether you're using a distance weapon or using hand-to-hand combat, they always cause damage to you. There is a way to beat them easier with the custom combos, which I will talk about that a little bit later. Then of course you have your leapers that can go invisible at will. These are the guys that you have to use a light to show them, or use your Sensen DOS to stun them in place and they can't turn invisible. There are some other enemy types that I haven't gone over, but I think by now you've kind of got the idea of what I mean by it varying up the gameplay a little bit. But for this next thing that I want to talk about is the story. So this is your official spoiler warning. If you don't want to hear any spoilers or anything like that, feel free to skip ahead to the next chapter. You have been officially warned. Remember Me is set in year 2084 in a futuristic version of Paris called Neo-Paris, where the Memorize Corporation has invented a new brain implant called Sensen, which enables 99% of the population to upload and share their memories with other people, as well as remove unhappy or unpleasant memories. This establishes Memorize as a surveillance state, which leads a small group of rebels by the name of Lyricists to attempt to bring down the corporation. The invention of the Sensen has also resulted in the creation of Leapers, who are memory-addicted humans who have absorbed so many memories that their Sensen has degraded, and they have mutated into these subhuman things, now living in the sewers of Neo-Paris. You take up the role as the Nilin, an heiress who is imprisoned, who is having almost all of her memory wiped by Memorize. As she is taken to have the last of her memories wiped, a mysterious man called Edge, the leader of the heiress, and the man she only hears over her comm devices, helps her escape. Edge tells her that she is an heiress with the gift of both stealing and remixing memories. After escaping into the slums of Neo-Paris, Nilin encounters Tommy, a fellow heiress. Nilin and Tommy are attacked by Olga Sedova, a bounty hunter chasing Nilin. Nilin dives into Olga's mind and remixes her memory to make Olga believe that her husband was killed by a memorized doctor. She then becomes an heiress ally and transport Nilin to her first destination. Arriving at the St. Michael district, Nilin, who is aided by another heiress, codenamed Bad Request, is told by Edge to steal secret codes from a neo-Paris top architect. After retrieving and uploading the codes to Edge, he uses them to open the St. Michael Dam, flooding the entire district. Due to the flood draining out the slums, Nilin can infiltrate La Bastille and head to the memory servers to free the stored memories of herself and the inmates while taking down Madame, the sadistic manager of La Bastille. With Madame defeated, Nilin releases the memories of all the inmates and partially regains some of her own memories. She remembers the crime that landed her in La Bastille, and on a mission, Nilin remixes the mind of a memorized commander and made him believe that he killed his girlfriend. The altered memory pushed him to commit suicide. Nilin reluctantly goes along with Edge's next plan, which is to remix the CEO of Memorize's memory to make her see the harm her company's technology is causing. Nilin then makes her way into the office and enters her mind, remixing the memory of a car crash which left her with a bitter taste against the world. As she changes the memory to make her a more compassionate person, Nilin discovers that she is actually the CEO's daughter. I keep addressing her as the CEO is because her name is very hard to pronounce. I will put it up on the screen right now, and you can just use that with the best of your ability as well. I'm very bad at pronouncing names, so I'm not gonna say it. Nilin is then told by Edge to head for the La Bastille basement to save Bad Request, who has been taken captive. She finds Bad Request but discovers that his memory has been fully wiped. It is revealed that memorized scientist Dr. Quaid wants to control the Leapers through their senses and thus breed a private army for Memorize. However, Johnny Greenteeth, a former co-worker of Quaid's who was experimented on and turned into a Leaper, kills Quaid and prepares to self-destruct La Bastille, and Bad Request helps Nilin take down Johnny at the cost of his own life, and Nilin escapes the destroyed facility, which, by the way, Johnny Greenteeth is probably the most normal name on this game. With all of Memorize's secret operations taken down, Edge presses Nilin to find the concept cube, which is Memorize's central base, and destroy the H3O, which is Memorize's central server. Once she's there, she encounters her father, Charles Carter Wells, the creator of Sensen. Upon finding him, she sees that, fueled by the car accident that injured his wife, he has become lost in a dream of an ideal world free from potential painful memories, all inspired by the desire to help Nilin forget about the accident. Nilin makes him see the harm his technology is causing, and his wife, or her mom, arrives to convince Charles to help Nilin enter the central server. Once in the presence of the central server, it is revealed to Nilin that Edge is a self-aware entity created by the unwanted memories within H3O. He's basically every terrible and awful memory that nobody wanted just dumped into one place. Nilin, who unwittingly started Edge with the memories of her unhappy childhood, enters the server at the will of H3O/Edge. She destroys him and releases the memories back into the general population. As the memories are released, Nilin remembers Edge's words about the mind being a fortress, and says that Edge died to remind people that memories should not become open to all, and that painful memories should be lived with rather than forcibly removed. She concludes that outside of her now restored mind, she has a family again and a damaged world to heal.
Chewed up and discarded, and this world ain't right, won't accept it. Negative.
Now that you've heard about the game, what it's about, the story, stuff like that, let's take a quick listen to the music. The music was composed by Oliver de Revere, and yes, I had to look up how to say his last name. He recorded the score with a 70-piece orchestra, then modified and changed it using electronic equipment, and I'm guessing to give it the futuristic sound that I love so much. I thought the music gave the game more life, every note that was added when I punched my enemies. I thought it sounded really awesome. Plus the tones and the sounds that would fade in when things were coming to a close or getting real serious made the setting that much better. Just listen to this. That's when things are coming to a close. Here's during combat. I actually loved this game. I thought it was good for what it was, and there were small things that I found that were kind of annoying, like the little half cough, half yell that Nilin does every time she's fighting. That was kind of odd to me. That's it, the sound that she made right at the end of the combo. Very annoying. See what I mean? That's what I heard constantly when I played this game. Beat my skull in with a bat, please.
Look at that! Taking it like a champ! Fuck. My nuts.
And sometimes the enemies take forever to take down, but I really think that's because you must use the perks, and also the game was a little bit short, taking me a little over 11 hours to complete. But that was okay, because the game did pique my interest when it actually started to kind of move forward a little bit, because it did start a little bit slow.
Your life and reject it. You better give me space, I'm protective.
There isn't really too much to unlock if you go back and replay the game, except for some artwork in the gallery, but for you trophy hunters out there, you can go back and play the game to just get the trophies. And there are also these collectibles as well. Each new area you are, there's a total of 5 packages you can collect, which I did not know this until the end, where I accidentally collected all 5 packages. But collecting all 5 packages in one area will give you an extra health slot. There are also these bugs called scaramoushes, I think that's how you pronounce them, that you can also go back and shoot. Each one of these gives you a point toward unlocking your next combo upgrade. There are a few other collectibles as well, but the only ones that I know firsthand are those 2 that I just mentioned. But I will say that is about it as far as replayability is concerned, and I'm going to say this without adding a card, there is no online play for this game at all. So with all that said and put together, I give this game, drumroll please, 7 scaramoushes out of 10. Alright, we are live in Parker's room. He's gonna be drawn out of a hat. Something good. If it ain't good, it's on you. The Last of Us and I'm guessing the Left Behind DLC. So The Last of Us and the Left Behind DLC. It's a very good pick, actually. Very good again. The Last of Us and DLC. I don't know, I'm gonna edit that.